Here's your money briefing for Monday, March 13th. I'm J.R. Whalen for the Wall Street Journal. Most investors saw their retirement accounts take a beating last year, except for one group, Gen Z, people born after the mid to late 90s. So how do people in their 20s and early 30s with relatively little investing experience wind up coming out ahead? Oyin Adedoyin from the WSJ's personal finance team joins us to go through the numbers. Hey, Oyin, thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, JR.
So, Oyin, tally up the score for us. How did Gen Z investors do compared to other groups?
Yeah, so somewhat surprisingly, the people at Fidelity tell us that while the average nest egg in Fidelity accounts lost 23% in 2022, Gen Z workers born between 1997 and 2012 posted a gain of 14%.
Wow, that's a pretty big spread. That's pretty remarkable considering the fact that the S&P 500 was down nearly 20% for the year. So how did Gen Z do that? Did they crack some kind of investing code?
No, it wasn't anything like that. It wasn't investment savvy or beginner's luck, so much as the good fortune of not actually having that much money invested yet as the markets tanked. And so they had an average balance of about $6,000 compared with $103,900 for all retirement savers with Fidelity accounts.
Oh, so the less money invested, the less damage to be done.
Exactly.
And you know, Oyin, we saw sell-off after sell-off on Wall Street in 2022. It was not pretty. And that could have scared a lot of people away. You know, they might have pulled money out or at least dialed back the amount that they were investing.
Yeah, it was definitely a rough year in the market last year, but Americans don't seem deterred. About 90% of investors in the 401k style retirement plans administered by Vanguard Group maintained or increased their savings rate last year. So in my reporting, I've seen that Americans across the board are really prioritizing their savings accounts. And when I spoke with folks at Fidelity, they also emphasized this, particularly among Gen Z, who has greater access to internet research related to finance and how to kind of invest, especially when it comes to retirement. And so they're seeing, particularly in this generation that's growing in the workforce, a real commitment to those types of saving plans.
Yeah, and that's pretty significant given the fact that this is all happening up against a pretty challenging economic climate.
Yeah, I mean, U.S. consumers are definitely beginning to show signs of financial stress. Particularly in recent months, credit card balances are rising back to pre-pandemic levels in some places, and savings that people were able to build up during the pandemic, the early years, have now declined. And so almost 50% of Americans are showing that their personal savings that they had accumulated about a year ago are either lower or completely depleted. A lot of that is because Americans were flush with cash due to stimulus checks, and now a lot of that money has gone away.
All right, and so back to Gen Z. What types of investments do most people in this age group have in the market?
So Gen Z has a lot of investments in the stock market, given that 84% of them had most of their investments in target date funds. Those are portfolios that shift from stocks to bonds as people age. So for workers in their 20s, such portfolios are heavily exposed to the stock market.
And so what's the benefit of these target date funds, and why are they common among younger people?
Target date funds allow people to stay invested gradually over time, and typically they increase employees' savings rate by 1 percentage point a year until they reach a cap that's often 10% or more. Gen Z savers benefited from automatic enrollment into their 401ks, as more companies have default contribution rates between 3% and 6%, which cause more of them to save. These automatic features oftentimes remove hurdles in the way of saving and investing, especially in challenging economic times where people are less likely to hold on to savings. Having an automated, streamlined process kind of puts that money in the background and not in the foreground of people's minds. So they're still saving, even if they're balancing their budgets on their own. Interestingly enough, when I spoke with folks at Fidelity, they mentioned that more often than not, most of these Gen Z workers are not really even aware of how much money is in their 401k accounts. They usually are just automatically enrolled into the system, so it makes it completely seamless and really easy for them to save compared to past generations.
All right, that's the Wall Street Journal's Oyin Adedoyin with us. Oyin, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, JR.
And that's your Money Briefing. I'm J.R. Whalen for the Wall Street Journal.